What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another Beta Memoirs. And today we've had some major earnings. We had Google, which beat. We had Microsoft that beat, AMD that beat. Now, the forward guidance is ultimately what matters. Google was essentially saying that expenses will be more expensive. Understand that. So it's really about uh, how the market is going to digest the next overnight. As far as I am aware, as far as what I've seen, I think Google is going to start pushing. I know there's a big sell off towards the middle of the day in anticipation of what could possibly happen. And one thing I did notice was Apple, Tesla, and Nvidia were holding extremely well on the sell off. Everything else took quite a bit of a beating. I know Amazon dived shop, and that's something else I want to talk about too, is that e-commerce isn't until Thursday, I believe, starting with Shopify in the morning and then Amazon in the afternoon along with Apple. But being said, e-commerce really hasn't come out, so we don't really know what's happening with the e-commerce space just yet until they report and see how much of the supply chain issues there are. What I think is ultimately happening is we're leading up into possibly a big bullish move coming into the end of this week and going into next week. Ultimately, we want to see how supply chain issues, inflation, and all that stuff is essentially affecting the market. And so far, so good. So we have to see. Yes, there's been some major hits. Snap took a major hit, but even Facebook sold off today. But being said, I think everything is still setting up. I still think you have some other major players just going to carry the weight, like your Teslas, your Apples, your Googles, and possibly Amazon, Shopify, depending on how the e-commerce space does later in the week. But if they do well, I can see us. This is just a temporary dip this week. Going into next week, I'm still very bullish, even though it seems we're very high. Things are still looking really good. For the most part, yes, I realize the economy and the markets, right, they play differently. So you have to understand that. And something I've learned throughout the years too is that what you see on TV, even though things may be going to hell, you have to also understand that it really doesn't affect the market as much as you think it would. So being said, we are still very bullish. Tesla extremely bullish still, even at these numbers. It's the first time Tesla's actually seen some steam like this in a while, and it's been a while. It's been held down. It's actually been in a huge wedge leading up to this point. If you look back at the chart, which we'll get into, but again, the market, it looks like it's wedging. I think we're going to break out of this tomorrow. We're going to start running. I think we'll get a good day of running tomorrow. We do have. Let me see what we have tomorrow for as far as earnings. Tomorrow we got Boeing in the morning, Coca-Cola, GM, McDonald's in the morning, then Ford, Teladoc, and Twilio, ServiceNow in the afternoon. Even got Upwork as well in the afternoon. So we want to see how that plays out tomorrow. Ultimately, I'm more focused on what happens on Thursday because those are some more heavier weighted ones. So again, I think we'll have a very bullish day tomorrow. Just I want to see what the digestion is first. Though we do have Spotify in the morning too. I want to see how the digestion is, and then from that point, I think FANG again. Look at your Apples. Look at your Tesla. Google is going to be a big one tomorrow, and also Nvidia as well. So those things are to keep in mind. AMD did well as well. Again, I think they said they're ramping up for the Xbox and PlayStation, those chips for those. So, being said, everything looks good, right? Things can look great, or forward guidance can be horrible. Ultimately, it depends on the digestion in the market, and this is why pre-market is such a big thing, and why you need to focus and go through your charts pre-market, because that's ultimately going to tell you what the market thinks of what's going on. If it may have dipped overnight, but if you find that volume flushes in the morning and starts pushing the market up pre-market, that's extremely bullish in my opinion. And so that's something to keep an eye on, and what I'm keeping an eye on for tomorrow. Now for tomorrow, again, something I talked about, I want to go what I just talked about, Tesla. I want to back this out real quick, because even up leading to this point, you have to remember since like February, let me see if I can get this correct. That would be great here. You know, even since back in March and February when we started selling off, we've been consolidating for an extremely long time, right? And this is just a slight move. This has just been about 2 months or so. So we still have a lot of room to run, in my opinion. So don't let it fool you. Even though it seems high, I still think Tesla can still continue to run, and it is the best one so far. Now we got Google, on the other hand, which they just completely destroyed earnings. Right? Again, forward guidance, and them saying what's going to happen with expenses and stuff. We have to see how the market's going to digest that. Again, forward guidance is big going on a lot of these, but we've had a lot of the forward guidance we've had it is misleading because they're still beating expectations. We've been talking about the forward guidance isn't great. We don't know what's going to expect. We've been hearing that since the beginning of the year, and still yet your big companies like Google, your Teslas, your Apples are still crushing it along the way. And so, being said, that you can see that Apple really didn't affect Google as much as either. So that's something to see. But we have to see how the market is going to play on that. But again, Google, Tesla, and then coin. I want to see how Bitcoin does. Currently, right now, it's sitting at 60. It's come down a little bit. It's selling off. There's been some news on and off. As long as it holds here, I mean, it can even dip down to, I believe it's around 58 or so. Another 59, 58, and we'll still be extremely bullish going up into the end of the year. So that's something I want to keep an eye on. As coin pulls back again. I think this week we might get a little bit more of a pullback of anticipation, waiting to see what happens, and worrying concern, and people taking risk off the table, and then going into an explosive next week. So at least that's my thesis. Again, depending on how these earnings go, again, Apple could come out and Amazon come out and completely fall flat on their face is a possibility, and then the whole market could go down from that point. I don't think that's going to happen, but anything is possible. Apple's still holding. This might actually just hold until earnings, I think, is what is a possibility, is just to stay in this range until it hits that. Facebook sold off, like I said, even more, but then popped back. Is this a retest, or are we going to continue to sell? Have to see. They are, again, aiming more for the future at this point, putting billions into virtual reality and building that whole space out. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. Microsoft, again, I don't play this very much. Again, it beats, but I have to see how market digestion is. Again, everything is forward guiding, is what's kind of leading people to think what is possible. Google, again, looks great. Been waiting for this wedge break. It looks like it breaks. I really want to see where it opens tomorrow. If you can open above, if we can get this back above 2,800, that'd be awesome. I think we can actually do some great running from that point. Roblox, a lot of stuff is pulling back, and this is why I'm kind of leaning back towards FANG. Watch your FANG. Everything else, just kind of wait on it. We want to see where FANG goes, because this is pretty much FANG week. So we want to see where FANG goes and then play continuations from this point. I don't think shorting anything is good right now, because we don't know, unless you're playing something other than Tesla that is right now essentially hulking out right now. You don't want to be shorting something that's hulking out. At this point, you want to wait until it calms down and actually has multiple days of selling before you start getting into shorting the pump kind of mentality at this point. Amazon, I mean, we just started pushing back up. So it's something to keep in mind. We've been kind of selling off to this point. Now we're starting to push back up. I expected FANG to start running quite a bit. Amazon, I think, looks really good, but I think I really want to just wait. And I really think this is just going to hold here until it gets to earnings. Same with Shop. I think Shop has been taking a beating again today. Actually, won't be surprised if it drops back down to the 200 here, and then just kind of chills out till earnings and explodes back. I think is a strong possibility. NVIDIA, again, monster day. Looks like another big flag. Could possibly run again. You've had that's your second big day run. See if we get a third big day. Something to keep in mind. We want it to essentially stay in this range. We don't want it below 44, and we want it above 250. 250. If the hourly candle can hold above the 250.30 mark. That's definitely a good sign. Bullish side, more up to the upside. AMD, again, continuation. Forward guidance, again, is ultimately what's going to matter about these. This is hardly even moved. So we really want to see how that plays out. Coin, again, a little bit of a sell-off. We want to see if Bitcoin sells off a little bit more, see if it starts basing before it starts to rip up. That's what I'm looking for on coin. BYND is one thing about BYND is it's been consolidating a lot here. I may actually consider taking a position in this pretty soon. I want to see what the general market does. Normally, BYND pushes if the market. They are having a lot of issues with supply and everything as well, just like everybody else. So something to keep in mind. But that's essentially what I got, guys. Short video here today, but ultimately understand tomorrow is really about digestion and what just happened. Again, everything good. It's all based off of forward guidance at this point. People are still crushing it. And it's concerning that if forward guidance starts making things fall, we did see this on the last quarterly report. Everything essentially fell to everything reported, and then after that point, everything just ran for like 2 months solid. I think that's a strong possibility of what we could be seeing here. So just keep that in mind. And remember the ones that are holding, your Teslas, your Apples. Apple hasn't reported yet, but just remember that. Is your Google going to hold? Google is a big one tomorrow. If it holds and starts gapping up, that will be the play for me tomorrow, as well as Tesla. I think Tesla is going to continue to run, and then waiting on Apple and Amazon until they report, and then playing the continuation of that as well. So if you've made it this far, remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will see you guys on the field.